Hey everybody, and welcome to another edition of Board Games Hitting My Table. This is where I take a look at all the games that I played over the last couple of weeks. This episode covering the second half of October 2024. I don't have too many games here to talk about, but there are some very good ones. But before I get started, I want to give a shout out to the show's sponsor, KIENDA.co.uk, who are my go-to online retailer. And if you use the link in the show notes or the QR code, then you can get 5% off your first order. Additionally, if you use the code on screen, you can get an additional 35% off all games in the Super Deals category. So be sure to grab yourself a bargain. But let's get started on the games. And we're going to start with a two-player game of Firenze. So still going through my campaign of going back through my old games in my collection that I've not played for some time, and Firenze was right at the top of that list. Firenze, a game that kind of has fallen out of the kind of public eye, I suppose. It's Andrea Stedding's probably second most renowned game, obviously Hansa Teutonica being the first. This one, you are building towers based on drafting these cards, and basically it has this, I call it a incentive building mechanism, where you can skip over cards that you don't necessarily want by placing these building blocks on them to get to the cards that you do want access to. These cards range from very positive to very negative, but of course there's usually a breaking point where the negative cards are worth taking because there are so many of these building blocks sat on those cards. And these cards will do things such as give you positive or negative points. They'll give you game-breaking rules, let you swap bricks out for other bricks you want, and so on. And the general concept of the game is that you are building these towers by stacking these pieces and trying to commission them against these towers. The more bricks you collect, and the more points you'll get, but it comes with a risk, because if you do not keep adding to your towers each turn, then they actually get torn down. So you need to be quite careful to make sure that you've always got a steady income of bricks of the right colours. I really enjoyed this play. I was quite fortunate that during setup there is like these fixed commissions where if you do them in order, you get some bonus points. My opponent managed to do the first one, but I got the three following ones just in a row, really, just out of pure luck, because those were the towers that I was collecting. And my opponent also, unfortunately, collected quite a few of those negative point cards and couldn't get rid of them. But still, really nice to get this one back to the table. Again, always nice to be reminded as to why these great games have been in my collection for so long. A real traditional Euro-style game. And again, if you like those dry, dusty Euros with great mechanisms, Firenze is kind of like the textbook example of a game like that. So really enjoyed getting Firenze back to the table. Let's talk about the two quick ones then. I played a two-player game of Lacuna. This is a game that I spoke about quite recently. It's a weird geometry-style game, an abstract strategy game, as you are trying to collect these different tokens and have the majority of each token type. Gameplay-wise, it's quite interesting as you are trying to place one of your markers in between two of the same token types. You'll collect those tokens for your scoring pile, but at the end of the game, every remaining token on the board will go to the player whose marker is closest to them. So it's a game of very small differences between the winner and the loser. Every game I've played of this has come down to kind of one or two pieces. And it's kind of, I don't know, I did come out quite strong with my rating of this one because I love how unique it is, and I do think it's fun, and it's a lot of game for just like 6 decisions throughout the whole game. But I think maybe the margins are a little bit too tight, and the more plays or the more times you play it, I think the novelty or the uniqueness of the game starts to maybe not be as exciting as it once was. So I've probably lowered my score just a tad, but I do appreciate how, again, unique this one is, and I'm sure there's going to be tons of fans of abstract games that will like this one. So that is Lacuna. A game that I've been spoke about most recently on my review series, a Castle Combo. I've been playing a ton of this one. Such a joy to get to the table. Simple little drafting and tableau building style game as you are building a 3x3 grid of cards, all of which score in unique ways. I just tend to like everything about this game. I think there's nothing about it that I can really criticize. I love the blend of long-term points building up, as well as kind of short-term decision making to make sure you've got enough money in your kitty, really. Check out my review of this one. Again, it has been most recently featured on my ranking series, and I will crop that little segment out and upload that on its own. But, spoiler alert, it's a very good game, and I strongly advocate it, and I think it deserves all the praise it is getting at the moment. Let's go on to the heavy hitters then. So, I played a 2-player game of Terra Pyramides. This one is a game that has quite sadly flown under the radar for so many people this year. It's only been released in England in 2024, and it's a Kramer and Kiesling game, and I don't hear anybody talking about this game at all. And I think this is a really strong contender to be my game of the year. I think right now it is tracking to be the best game I've played this year, at least in terms of a new release. It is such a pure, old school feeling Euro. As you're placing these tiles onto this grid, you are choosing either vertical, horizontal or diagonal line and getting all the bonuses from these tiles, which can be these building blocks, these workers, victory points and so on. And then what you're doing is you are contributing those building blocks to build pyramids onto the board, but you need to be making sure you have a constant flow of workers on there to make sure that you have the manpower to do so. I love the simple turn structure. Have a tile in your hand, place it down, get the resources, and build if you want to. The game zips along at a fast pace. There's some additional modules you can use if you want to add to the complexity. I personally really advocate you do that. Now, the base game is really good, but those extra modules add so much more to the kind of different paths to victory you can take. This most recent game, I thoroughly got my ass kicked. I think I've generally done quite well in this game, but this most recent one, it didn't go well. I just wasn't getting the coloured bricks that I wanted to really get those higher pyramid points. And I was kind of focusing on one of the other aspects of the game by surrounding your own pyramids and getting the points that way instead. But still, if you love your dusty, dry Euros, kind of a Euro abstract hybrid, because everything is pretty deterministic here, apart from your tile draw, this is just up there with the greats. I think it is a fantastic game. I highly, highly advocate it. And again, it's criminal where this game is not getting kind of praised from the rooftops. So that is Terra Pyramides, definitely one of the highlights of the last couple of weeks. I also played a 2-player game of the Great Castles of Burgundy. Now, I didn't play this version of the game, so this is that kind of the first edition version. I played the one that came in between this one and the one from Awakened Realm. So I didn't play the big shiny deluxe one. It was the one that came out in between with the keys on the front, I think it has. I'm sure if you're watching this video, you know what the Castles of Burgundy is all about. And this was the first time that I've played with any of the additional module expansions. So the ones that we included were the ones that had, it rewarded you for shipping off goods in a particular order. So if you, for example, shipped off the orange goods and the next one on line that you were supposed to cash in were matching that colour, then you'd get an additional bonus, which was really useful. And I thought it made the shipping action so much more exciting and more alluring to go into and try that path to victory. And we also included these shields that you could buy. I think that's what they were, where they gave you really powerful in-game abilities, but you had to pay with them through the gems or the silver ore in order to keep them in your supply. And I did quite well out of that one, because one of the ones that I collected that would allow me to score points based on my opponent's yellow tiles. So whatever they collected for their endgame scoring, I would also score too. So that did me really well. I also did quite well off my animal collecting and, of course, doing those buildings. But still, this one has always been in my top 30 games of all time. I did actually probably shift this one up on my personal rankings because I enjoyed this most recent play so much. I've always rated it around an 8.5 out of 10. I'd probably raise that to a 9 now. After all this time and after so many plays. When you play more games and you go back to play the great ones, they really do kind of show you why they are those great games. So that is the Castles of Burgundy. Again, another fantastic highlight of the last couple of weeks, and just such a joy to play, so silky smooth. And me and my opponent were talking about, despite us both loving Stefan Feld games, this one might be one of the strongest examples of, even if you haven't played it for quite some time, you can just pull it off the shelf and know exactly where how the game works and just dive right in, because again, mechanically it's so easy, but still just so crunchy and so many great decisions to be made. And the final game I have here is Sansus, another game that I have been talking about recently on my review series. I really am enjoying this one, and I'm not sure if it's going to hold up long term, because each game is somewhat similar to the last, but I suppose you are tactically reacting to the cards that you have in your hand, etc. We did actually include for the first time one of the very minor expansion modules that will give you kind of positive or negative points based on certain tiles you place out. You're basically placing these miniature boards on top of your other board, and you're trying to bypass certain squares, or place particular tiles on certain squares. So it adds another dimension to the strategy, which I think I'll probably always include in future games. But still, this one feels so different to many other tile laying games out there. And for now, it's staying around, and hopefully it will continue to earn its place in my collection. A really solid, almost family plus weight tile placement game that you can play in around 30 to 40 minutes, which is always, those kind of games tend to see the light of day quite a lot because they are so easy to table. So that is Sansus. The only other game that I have played is, we played some more Clask. So, my friend picked up this for really cheap at a cart boot, and we've been playing the hell out of that one because it is so much fun. A great dexterity game. That's it, really. That's all of the games that I have been playing. Not loads in terms of quantity, but the quality has been excellent with these traditional old school Euros by the great designers, like Michael Kiesling, Wolfgang Kramer, Stefan Feld, Andreas Stedding with Firenze, and even new delights such as Castle Combo. So hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please be sure to hit like and subscribe to the channel, and check out my other content too. Also be sure to check out the BGG page for my new game Thalamus, and I'm currently taking pre-orders for that one, so send me an email if you want to reserve yourself a copy. But for everybody else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye bye.